we have a pretty full agenda, and we will keep going. Representative Hsu will be joining us via his office, and we will also accept his votes as well when the time is appropriate. As we get underway, you have received the minutes from March 2nd, 7th, and 8th. They were sent to you back on the 11th. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Smith, second by Thompson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. We will now open up the hearing on Senate Bill 451, and we'll call on Reviser Kyle Hamilton for an explanation of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Currently, a person residing in the state may receive a permanent license to hunt, fish, and fur harvest if such person submits proof to the Secretary of Wildlife and Parks that such person is at least 1/16th Native American by blood and maintains current enrollment on a federally recognized tribal membership roll. Senate Bill 451 would remove the requirement that an individual residing in the state submit proof that they are at least 1/16 Native American by blood, the effect of which would be that an individual would only have to submit to the Secretary of Wildlife and Parks satisfactory proof that the individual maintains current enrollment on a federally recognized tribal membership roll to receive such license. Senate Bill 451 would become effective upon publication in the statute book. I'll note in one moment, there's a technical amendment that's been requested for this bill. I won't go into detail right now, but if the chair wants me to at some point during the hearing, I will. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Kyle? Seeing none, thank you. We will now go to proponents, and joining us, Steve Adams from the. Sorry about that. You can all hear me, but maybe those online have to get closer to their TV. Steve Adams from the Kansas Wildlife and Parks. So, welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Steve Adams from Wildlife and Parks. Very briefly, what we are trying to accomplish with Senate Bill 451 is to avoid a duplication of effort. As the reviser stated, currently residents of Kansas who are tribal members must also prove to the department that they are at least 1/16th Native American heritage in order to qualify for these licenses. Our licensing staff, in working with the recognized tribes in Kansas, has come to recognize that all of the tribes in Kansas require at least this minimum or have a greater or more stringent requirement for tribal membership. So in our opinion, we feel like this is an unnecessary step for these individuals to take. They've already proven their heritage to the tribe. They've been accepted by the tribe. The change that is suggested in Senate Bill 451 would simply allow us to use their tribal membership as recognition that they qualify and not make these individuals go through the effort to prove again that they are qualified to receive a hunting, fishing, and fur harvesting license. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would add is that we would also request, we see this as a very minor change to law, and we would ask the committee to consider placing this on the consent calendar. And with that, I would be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have down for oral testimony. None for written, but is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify on Senate Bill 451 as a proponent? Seeing none here online, I have no opponents. And seeing no one wanting to testify there, and I see none for neutral. Okay, so with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 451. Committee, we will work with this here in a few minutes. All right, let's go ahead and work some of the bills we've heard recently. Senate Bill 346. Kyle, would you give us a brief on that bill again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 346 allows for the on-farm retail sale of raw milk and milk products that are labeled raw milk or unpasteurized. It allows for the advertisement of such products as long as such advertisements state such products are raw or unpasteurized and are not misleading. The bill extends certain milk and dairy license fees and establishes certain standards for milk. The definition section for the Kansas milk laws has a strange a way of combining the definitions with substantive provisions and requirements. And so outside of the issue of selling and advertising raw milk, a large part of what the bill does is it separates definitions of terms from the actual requirements for those terms. For instance, the actual definition of grade A pasteurized milk would remain in the definition section on page 3, but the substantive requirements concerning grade A pasteurized milk would be moved to new section 1, subsection E. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, what is your wishes for Senate Bill 346?
I move we pass out Senate Bill 346.
All right, it's been, okay. And it's been moved by Representative Carlin. Discussion? Representative Featherston.
I have an amendment.
Okay.
I think Kyle has it.
We'll get it handed out and you can explain.
Not the back, the first one.
Thank you.
Oh, shoot, okay, yeah. Okay, we received them, and Representative Featherston, if you would like to explain, then Representative Shue, we are working on a way to get these amendments to you. So explain your amendment.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can see on page 2, this clarifies that the milk is not pasteurized and could contain bacteria that could cause foodborne illness. I think it was the representative Kansas Livestock Association that pointed out 1/3 of the milk samples had bacteria, and I did a little research. So that means salmonella, listeria, and like there were some pretty serious foodborne illnesses. And I think right now people that search out raw milk know what they're getting. But if we're going to expand, then I think we need to put food safety at the forefront and put these terms back in so that nobody mistakenly ends up with unpasteurized milk because they don't understand what raw milk is.
All right, other discussion? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be opposing the amendment. I don't believe that it's necessary, and also the KLA is backed off of their request to have that amendment added, and they've decided to go with different language instead. That's all been worked out, and so I think that we need to go with this new request that they have and instead of this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, other discussion? Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm unaware of anything that's all been worked out. That's the first I've heard of anything like that. So it hadn't been worked out with this side of the room. But I look at this as just a very positive statement that would be much like what you get on the cigarette package. It may cause cancer. I mean, this may cause a disease, a foodborne illness. I mean, it is just healthy information. And being raised on a dairy farm and around, cows and stuff, there's a lot of stuff in the air, and if you bring the milk up from the barn and you drink it without any pasteurization, you get, I mean, you cannot keep a dairy barn clean enough, to me, that it could not attract foodborne illness. So I think it's a very positive statement. I see no reason for anyone to object to it at all, and no one's come to me to ask me or explain why. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
All right, other discussion? Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think of this as the same thing you'll find on your package of chicken that says essentially handle with care, may contain salmonella. So I think it's just maintaining the standards we already have in the industry.
Other discussion? And again, just for explanation purposes, is anything that was taken, almost everything was taken out, you want to put back in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Representative Fairchild, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just point out again that, this already has to be labeled as raw milk. When people buy raw milk, they already know what they're buying, and they already know all the risks associated with it. And so I don't believe that it's necessary. I think it's just unnecessary government regulations when the people who are buying this already know exactly what they're buying.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just say if this is being sold in the store, I think this would be a valid point, but this is being sold, from the farm, so I don't think it's necessary.
Representative Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to agree. If you go to someone's house farm that raises chickens and you buy a chicken to fry, it doesn't list those things. It's a fresh chicken. You bought it there off the farm. You saw where it came from. As he said, if it was sold in stores, that's different. And I do understand, but it's kind of this over-regulation thing. I believe is that we didn't used to have all the regulations we have now, and you and I are still alive. And our grandparents and our great-grandparents and everybody before us, all this started, drank this milk. And by gosh, they maybe didn't live as long as we did, but there was a lot of other things that happened. I don't think it was because they drank raw milk. If you have to go to the farm and it's labeled raw milk, that's what it is. If you have to go and you buy a beef and you butcher it, if you go kill a deer and you butcher it's not labeled. If it's sold in a store, yes, government regulations come and should, but I just don't believe it is needed. Thank you.
Representative Smith.
I think I look at this like I do eggs, in that, you buy eggs from the farmer. He didn't have to have it packaged a certain way. He didn't have to warn you about the consumption of raw eggs or any of that. You're buying raw milk from a farmer. You don't need all those warnings either. So.
Other comments? Representative Hasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you refresh me? I've heard a constituent say that she saw raw milk or unpasteurized milk in the store. Does this bill specifically say won't be sold in stores? Ever?
Kyle, you want that or you want me to do that? The way I read that, Representative, is it's allowing on-farm retail sale of milk and milk products. On-farm is the way I see that.
Does that include farmer's market?
It's on-farm, not farmer's market.
Okay.
Yes. You said a constituent told you they had raw milk in the grocery store?
I think there was just this confusion at an organic grocery store in town that they were confused. I think it said raw or unpasteurized. So just wanted to make sure and clear that it won't be in the grocery stores. So if it's not, then I appreciate that.
And Kyle, you may help me, but the way I understand this bill is simply for on-farm sales.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, Representative Featherston, you may close.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
sorry, I messed up. We need a second first for your amendment. Do we have a second by Probst? And now, I'm sorry. Thank you. Caught me. Representative Featherston, you may close on your amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll point out, I don't need the warning on chicken that tells me it has salmonella. I know that because I have a little sense. I also didn't need to wear a seatbelt until I promised my dad I would wear one when I got a driver's license, and it wasn't the law then, although it's the law now. But it doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea for me to wear my seatbelt and to use my Clorox wipes after I have chicken all over my counter. So I'm not sure. We have a lot of people pretty far removed from farms these days. If we're going to have a big sign on the side of I-70 as I'm driving my kids on vacation that says fresh raw milk, I think the consumer deserves to know what raw milk is.
Okay, so with that, all those in favor of the amendment by Representative Featherston, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Aye. Amendment fails. Back on the bill, Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment. Kyle, if you would pass those out, please.
You got one too, right?
The and.
No, I think I talked to him. I think he's got it, so.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to make it simple.
Choose offices are too far away.
So what?
Choose offices are too far.
Oh, to get this to him.
I think everybody has it now. Representative Mosier, would you explain your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fairly simple amendment. It removes the words bacteria-borne and could cause foodborne illnesses. It removes that whole phrase, and it says raw and takes the word or unpasteurized and replaces it with and. So the labels on the milk bottles will say raw and unpasteurized.
Do I have a second? Second by Thompson. So the only change is on the second page, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Questions or comments? Representative Featherston?
I could support this amendment because it makes clear that the milk is unpasteurized, which makes it safer for the public. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Seeing none, Representative Mosier, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I close.
You have heard the amendment from Representative Mosier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Opposed, no? No. Motion carries. The bill has been amended. We're back on the bill. Other comments, Representative Probst?
I believe I have an amendment.
At least 6 years, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Heather, I think I know what this one is. I don't think you need to walk it out to me for this,
Okay.
this time.
Thanks. Everybody's got it? Okay. Representative Probst, you may explain your amendment. Looks like a lot of line. Yeah, no, it's much. Okay.
Oh, it's not as much as it seems. Basically, on page 3, it looks like previously we had stricken the imminent health hazard language altogether. This, I feel, summarizes that much better and more succinctly and reinserts that definition. I think, and this is in the, Kyle, correct me if I'm mistaken here, but it is inserting that into the definition portion of the bill, and that's probably necessary to have some definition because when we get to page 10 of the bill, we have another reference to imminent health hazard, and I think we probably would be wise to have a definition if we're going to reference what happens if there's an imminent health hazard.
Correct. Similar to other terms in the definition section where we had the definition itself split from the substantive requirements. In the bill currently on page 10, those substantive requirements had been stricken from the definition, then reinserted there on page 10, but the Senate bill had also stricken the underlying definition itself. So now, as written, it is unclear what an imminent health hazard is. So the only thing this balloon amendment does is it reinserts that underlying definition using the same language as before.
So, first sentence, definition is this language, but then the rest of the language is stricken. It's like the second and third sentences. That's what was transferred.
Do I have a second for his? I thought. Yeah, do I have I need a second on that amendment, Featherston? I thought I got that one. Okay. Questions or comments on this amendment? Representative Smith?
I'm reading that section later on page 10 into 11, and literally it seems like I'm arguing semantics here, and that is that within that, from lines 42, 43 on 10 to 1 through 5 on 11, they more or less describe what the imminent health hazard would require, what that would be, in that when necessary to protect the public health, an imminent health hazard may be declared by the Secretary at any point in a chain of events that ultimately may result in harm or danger to the public health, the occurrence of the final anticipated injury or other disease-related condition, and it goes on. It just seems redundant, not required, but I don't know that we add any cost by adding this amendment at the beginning, so.
Representative Probst.
It does seem redundant, but I guess one thing I'd point to is the language on page 10 and 11, it does not confine this, if we use this as a definition, does not confine this to the discussion of milk at all. I mean, this definition makes it clear that this is what we're talking about in terms of definition, so that later when we reference imminent health hazard, it's clear that we go back to that definition where we're clearly just talking about the process of milk. And it does. When I looked at it, I thought, okay, it seems like we have this here, but I do think it's probably important to clarify that definition and make sure we're limiting it to just this topic.
Representative Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kyle, if I may, how broad of a definition is that in 10? Do we see that in other language and other bills and other statutes, or where something is a hazard, danger, or whatever language we want to use? I mean, we're just pinpointing milk, and I think as a previous representative has said, we've all grown up on milk, and I mean, does it have to be just milk, what this balloon is talking about here?
If the underlying definition were reinserted, then the term itself would be anchored exclusively to conditions brought about by milk, milk products, dairy products, et cetera. I can't speak off the top of my head about whether we use identical language elsewhere, but with the animal health commissioner and diseases in livestock and animals, there are similar types of powers regarding those situations where there might be an outbreak of certain diseases in livestock. But if the underlying definition weren't reinserted, then I think it would be a little more difficult to pinpoint necessarily the extent of the applicability of the language. And I recall it caused some confusion in the Senate committee when they were working the bill, because they didn't have the underlying definition to help anchor them in their discussion.
Jim Jacobs?
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Representative Featherston?
I think this question is for Kyle. So I see it that this restricts the government's ability to declare an imminent health hazard to only raw milk. Is that, or dairy? Is that how I'm supposed to be reading this?
Within the Kansas milk and milk product laws, this definition and the applicable provisions are tied to milk and milk products, and that would be it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, Representative Probst, you may close on your amendment.
I move my amendment.
You've heard the amendment by Representative Probst. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Amendment passes. We are back on the bill. Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an additional amendment.
Yes, it is a simple bill, I believe. That's it. Milk that one, huh? Yeah, you're gonna milk it, yeah. Okay, huh?
Guess this isn't going on the consent calendar.
I guess no, guess not. Turn your mic on if you say those things. Representative Mosier, you may explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment would place the contents of House Bill 2723. We had a hearing on that March 7th here regarding the Animal Health Commissioner being able to impose a civil penalty for violations related to transporting animals across state lines. without the proper documentation. It would place the contents of that bill into Senate Bill 346. The 2723 passed out of the Senate Ag, but was inadvertently left off of general orders. And so by putting it in this bill, then we'll be able to advance it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Minix. Discussion? Representative Jacobs.
So if I'm hearing right, we're going to do a gut and go or a shell of House Bill 2723?
I believe this is an addition. This is not replacing the language.
We're creating a shell?
Well,
Yes.
well,
we are.
but that other bill would not come out of committee. Other discussion? Representative Minix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My interpretation of this amendment is that we're trying to resurrect the certificate of veterinary inspection for those animals that travel across state lines because it was not furthered in the Senate. So this is one way of resurrecting that bill. Thank you.
Other discussion? Seeing none, Representative Mosier, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just feel like this is a vitally important piece of legislation. Having a livestock business where we get health certificates on a regular basis for transporting cattle across state lines, I just feel like this documentation is very necessary, and therefore, I would ask you to support this amendment. I close.
You've heard the amendment by Representative Mosier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment carries. We're back on the bill. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, Representative Carlin, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we I move my motion and amend it to say as amended.
Okay. Second? By Newland. All those in favor signify, all those in favor of passing out Senate Bill 346 as amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, I would like to bring, which it was not on the agenda, but this is action on bills that are in committee. I move that, this would be for Senate Bill 261. This is a bill that was in our committee that passed in the House. And so what I would like to do is I move that I have a substitute motion to place the contents of House Bill 2530 into Senate Bill 261. Have a second? Seconded by Smith. Discussion? Representative Newland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment. Let Kyle pass that out then? Or do you need to vote on that one first?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry. Yes, sir. Yes. Make sure, I haven't done this for a while, so The motion. Yes. Any other discussion on the motion? I'm sorry. Haven't done this for a couple of years. Representative Probst.
I guess I feel compelled to raise the question of the fate of 261. I mean, that establishing the asbestos remediation fund, I mean, that'll kill that. I mean, but is that something, I don't know. We're killing a bill dealing with asbestos. I guess I just feel like we should have that conversation.
Okay. Well, the chair was not going to work that bill, so it was sitting there anyway. So so I'm just going to tell you. Well, sometimes the chair doesn't tell every secret he has in his sleeve. Other discussion? I'll be waiting. Seeing none, I will close. All those in favor of, right? I need a second. I already got a second from Smith, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking too fast. All right. So all those in favor of the motion, of the substitute motion to put the contents of House Bill 2530 into Senate Bill 261, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Representative Newland.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I do have an amendment. Yes, please. Well, no, I do have one. Thank you.
Yes. Heather did remind, we passed that asbestos bill last year. It was, yeah, so it's taken care of. No worries. Just hold your breath. No. All right, yeah, no. So, because the Senate, I don't know. All right, Representative Newland, would you explain your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's simple. Line 16, line 13, strike the, strike the word or. It's such a large word. And then, I'm sorry, is that better? Okay. So on line 13, strike the word or, and then we'll add H as plant-based, or number one, a disclaimer equivalent to a through as determined by the Secretary through rules and regs.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Mosier. Discussion, you want to discuss any more, Representative Newland, or are you okay for now?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Representative Smith.
So how did we come up with the addition of plant-based? How did those words get added?
It's more of a, I would say, compromise to be able to move this on forward. Plant-based is a little more lenient, I guess you might say, in the description.
Mm-hmm. And the compromise is a conversation that took place after the committee meeting?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you.
Other discussion? Seeing, Representative Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With this, you're saying a disclaimer equivalent to, and then A through H, as determined by the Secretary through rules and regulations. What is this determination? What are we determining here? Plant-based?
Well, that would leave it up to the Secretary of Ag in order to make that determination if the language was to be changed or was identifiable on the label.
Isn't that why we're here anyway, to make this determination for ourselves?
I would say that for future reference, that we would give the Secretary of Ag that ability to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, other discussion? Seeing none, Representative Newland, you may you may close. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move my amendment.
You've heard the amendment by Representative Newland. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment carries. We're back on the bill. Other discussion? Okay, other discussion? Seeing none, I will close. So with that, I move the House or the Ag Committee, the House Agriculture Committee, pass out House substitute for Senate Bill 261 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The bill is passed. Now, Senate Bill 451, the one we heard earlier today. Do I have a motion? What the committee wants to do on this bill? Representative Haswood. Oh, you're right. Are you making that motion, Representative Shue?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make the motion that an emergency be declared and that we work this bill.
Very good. Second by Representative Haswood. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There we go. Thank you. We wait till the next to last day to get that right. Okay. Now we will work Senate Bill 346. No. 451. Don't want to do that one again, do we? Maybe we found some more amendments somewhere. Senate Bill 451. Committee, what's your pleasure? Representative Haswood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the committee pass SB 451.
Second. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Newland.
Oh, yeah,
all those in favor signify by saying, oh, what now? I don't need a second. I don't, that's why I don't. Yes, yes. No, yeah, we're not going to pass it. That's right. You're right. Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd move that we place it on the consent calendar as well. Or does that come later, or does that come now?
Will you retract that because we have a technical amendment, and that's why it has to take it off the consent calendar. That's why. So, do I have to vote on it or not? All right, so we do have a technical amendment, and Kyle will pass out.
We always have discussion. We don't, maybe didn't have any, but we offer.
Right. No, I, okay, everybody has this amendment, and again, we have some guests in the committee that we tend to do things a little bit different. So sometimes it is the true committee of the whole if we phone friends or we put people in the seat to make sure we have everything. So Representative Haswood, if you would explain this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment would be a technical amendment making clarification. So in the original bill, there's actually multiple ways for a federally recognized tribe to have that federally recognized status, and currently in the bill it had one way. Other ways could be through treaty rights back in the day, if they petition or go through the congressional process or state recognized process as well. So this is just correcting to be putting it on the published of the Secretary of the Interior in accordance with the federal recognized Indian tribes list of 1994. So that page is usually updated with the 574 federally recognized tribes. And yes, I'll stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions, Representative Smith?
I need an education here. This is the Act of 1994. I think we heard in a hearing in another committee about the Shawnee tribe. Does this act include all the tribes that were recognized after 1994? Because wouldn't the Shawnee tribe be after 1994? I just want to make sure we keep them.
Thank you for the question. I'll refer to Kyle, Mr. Chairman, if you can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in the balloon amendment, it's referring to a list that's statutorily required to be published, and it's updated every year or so. And that list is published in the Federal Register. It includes all of the tribes that are federally recognized, just no matter what the method is. So it would include all of the 4 resident Kansas tribes.
Very good. So just because it's the Act of 1994 doesn't mean the list cut off then?
Correct. They came out with an updated version in 2022.
Very good. Other discussion? Seeing none. Oh, yes. You didn't? Okay. Representative Shue. You'll be in the minutes a lot this year, so good. All right, sorry about that. Seeing no other comments or questions, Representative Haswood, you may close on this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee.
Just doing the amendment first.
I move my amendment.
All right, the amendment by Representative Haswood. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment carries. We're back on the bill. Any other discussion on Senate Bill 451? Seeing none now, Representative Haswood, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the committee passes SB 451 as amended.
Okay. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of passing out Senate Bill 451 favorably signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes as amended. We can't since it's been amended. Since it's amended, no, because it's be different. That's why. Yeah, it can't go to consent calendar now since we put that amendment on. It is just slightly different than the Senate. So, okay, I believe that's what we have. That's what I have on my agenda. Tomorrow we will wrap up the committee meetings with an informal briefing on the Food and Farm Coalition, kind of part 2 of what kind of where we go from here. some of the things that they are doing. Our Thursday meeting has now been canceled. We had some glitches in trying to get everything lined up, so we will see kind of how that works, and maybe next year that committee can do that. No meeting is scheduled for Friday, so I think that is just about it. We'd like to see you all tomorrow if possible. But before we go, thank you all for a great committee. I think we got a whole lot more done than we did last year. And thank you for putting up with many of my ineptitudes. And I'm used to following some parliamentary procedure that maybe we don't follow here. And you also know that I'm probably more freewheeling than most, so don't tell leadership. But we did get things done. We did some good work. And we did some things maybe outside the box that other committees haven't done. And I hope that not every bill received a hearing, but that's sometimes what happens. But I appreciate you all being here and being engaged in the process. And it's something you can be proud of, that you can tell your constituents that we did some good things for Kansas agriculture. So anything else for the good of the cause? Seeing none, no, nothing? Good. All right. Okay, you want to keep us all late. Just so you know, we're going to be out before 5. We are dismissed. See you tomorrow.